So we're back, and as you can see, I've used some Mr. Surfacer on that damaged area that we saw me cleaning up on the previous video. And so now I just want to sand that through and restore the detail there. So what I'm going to use for this is some 800 grit wet and dry. People have moved away from wet and dry an awful lot in recent years, and I'm sort of using it more and more, I'm finding recently. It's still very, very useful stuff to have around. It's very, very versatile, and for something like this where I'm going to be doing some light sanding, I want it to conform to the contours, and I will be sanding wet. I just find it's still terribly useful stuff to have around. So I have a various grits from 800 is about the finest I've got at the moment. I find for most jobs that involve actually painting a model, 800 grit is about as fine as you genuinely need to go. So just using a bit of water here. And gently sanding this area. As you can see, that I also had some that silver undercoat on there to check for it, so it just helps to see when you've sanded and cleaned it up properly. I do apologise for it being just sort of out of view, or at the very corner of the view. I'll try and correct that moving forward. There you go. But yeah, it's a little bit of wet sanding here just to remove that the excess Mr. Surfacer, whilst not creating any flat spots or dips, because it's following the general contour of the model as it is. As you can see, you can fold it over and make little stiffer little edges with it and things for getting into. There's a little bit of a convex curve there, which you need to be able to get into. Just dry that off and have a look across it. And overall quite happy with that. That's about as much work as going to be needed there, because there is a panel line to go in there, so absolutely making that invisible isn't really going to be too much of a help. So that the panel line that I'm restoring is going to be a little bit of a curve to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a piece of Dymo tape, which you can see me just cutting here with the scissors. I'm just using a bit of cutting board here so that I don't cut through my cardboard base there. Just checking that curve there with a piece of a Hasegawa tri-tool etched curve, so that was about the right size. So I'm just going to use that tri-tool to gently cut my piece of Dymo tape to the curve I want. Just going to snip it down the length of it so I haven't got too much overhang. And then we're just going to use the already existing line that I've just sanded smooth as the line along which this needs to go to restore that slightly curved panel line, which looks almost straight in these shots. There is a very slight curve to it, but not much. Just fiddling around with that to make sure it's in position. And then it's just a couple of light passes. No pressure. Just let the blade do the work itself. So that was, you know, however many passes there were there was no pressure being applied by me. And then I found that I can just the existing panel lines which need to go up to meet that are still existing enough for me to be able to eke them out to depth without using any edges for the scribing tool. Like so. And the other side. Again, just bringing it, you'll feel it actually drop into the line I just scribed as it gets to the limit of that panel line I'm scribing now. Once it'll drop into the line that was the first line it was scribed across the fuselage, and that is effectively that that detail restored there. Again, a little bit of sanding with the 800 grit again, just to make sure any burrs or anything are knocked off. And pretty much in anticipation of the well, primer or undercoat. That's all the work that's needed there. So now I'm going to turn it over and have a look at the canopy area. Okay, so we're just going to glue the front and rear canopy parts in place now. That required a little bit of trimming to sit down inside there, and then just a couple of little dots of Tamiya extra thin required to settle that in place. You can see it run around the bottom there, so it's always good to be careful with this. I prefer to use a liquid cement when doing this rather than PVA or anything, because it's much more hardy and means that the canopy can stand up to any work that you need to do. But you need to be sure that it's not going to run up inside the clear part. And I'm just applying a little bit of pressure there at the very rear where it was sitting a tiny little bit proud, and the cement softened it enough for it to sit right down. And it just popped right in there, perfect fit. And the same here, pretty much with the windscreen, which is pretty much an exceptional fit. And again, just going to use a little dab of Tamiya extra thin there. To go through, going at it from all angles. Make sure your canopy, if it does fit well, make sure it's bedded right down where it needs to be when you apply the glue, so that when you push it down tight it doesn't squeeze any glue outside. It's not the end of the world if that does happen, but it just does mean that you then have to do some cleanup afterwards. And what we're trying to do here is avoid as much cleanup as possible with the clear parts. So they've both gone into place pretty much perfectly. There's a leading edge light as well, which we'll deal with in a second, but this is the just the main canopy part here. This will be posed open, but I just want to check. I just wanted to check how it fitted, really. So, and as you can see, that fits absolutely perfectly. Once again, there's very little you can say about this kit that varies outside of saying it's just absolutely stunning from start to finish. So that's that done, and then there's the leading edge light there. You can see the cutout on the port wing there at about a third out from the fuselage there. This is just going to sit in there, be lightly sanded in when it's dry. So I've trimmed off one of the sprue gates, and I've left the other one on there so that I can easily handle this. Just going to apply a little bit of you could put a bulb and stuff in here if you want, paint it silver. I don't think it's really going to be that visible, so I'm not really, I'll mask that off when it's lightly sanded in. So it's popped in there. I'm just going to add again a bead of or a little dab of Tamiya extra thin around there, using a knife to make sure it's butted right in against the wing surfaces there.